if you can see it. Here we go.
Yeah.
Just started recording. Great. The crazy thing was I had Yanni on like a couple weeks ago, and we had this great thing. And then I go to check, and I'm like, oh, it didn't record. So, yeah, I know it's brutal. Speaking of that, Vogar, right?
I do know Vogar.
Yeah, so he runs the club out with him, Yanni, Vito. They get a lot of good international experience. I remember talking about the Yuri Gusov. It used to be a junior tournament, and back when Pico was killing everybody. I mean, Pico, he's still a great prospect. I think the world of him. But Sidakov, who I've got number one pound for pound, was still, this junior guy kicking around in Russia. If you watched the Regan, if you kept up with him, you would know. But Pico is by far the bigger name. And at that same tournament, Sidakov beats him. Now, Pico ends up, I think, also taking bronze that same year at Worlds.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they had, you remember Timur Mamedov? The acute. He cheated so bad. Like, we get India, fudges their records. Azerbaijan fudges their records. This dude was like, they said he was 24, 25 at juniors. And he's got, like, you can get big foreheads. This thing was like a fucking melon. He's good. He's wrestling for Bulgaria now. But how this ties back into Yanni was he wrestled Baev. David Baev, the world champ. And him and Baev met up with Chairman Valiev, the kid that was a runner-up at U23, he's bronze at Nationals. The one that's super fast. I love watching Valiev for the 30 seconds he wants to actually do anything. Being good at wrestling and being, fun to watch, those do not have to do the same thing. But it was over in North Ossetia, and Valiev beat him. And those two have had an ongoing series ever since, and I think it's great. So let's run over some of your credentials really quick. You're a 3-time AA for Michigan, 2008 Olympian. You runner-up at Pan Am's in 2007.
Yeah, at the games.
And did you ever do any club league stuff?
No, never did that. But I was on the 06 World Team.
Yeah.
And then, I placed a couple times at Pan Am's, but 07 was the Pan Am Games.
Well, you had Romero, didn't you? So you ran into two of the biggest, like, Cuban boogeymen that they've had in a while. They got a decent one now, but you had Romero, and then you got Salas Perez.
So here's the deal with that, and this is funny because I made my own bed with Salas. So the first time I wrestled Romero was in college. I won the university nationals, and I went to Pan Am. So I went on to Dominican Republic with like Jamil Cali, Joe Heskett. We had a really good team. So I go down there, and I lost to Romero.
Yeah.
In a really close match. It was like 5-3. And I lost him in the finals. And so I qualified for World Team Trials. But anyway, so fast forward, Romero leaves after 07. I think he defected out of Baku.
Yeah, because he was, wasn't he like a runner-up that year?
He might have been. I can't remember now.
I'm going to go check 2007 right now.
No, because he I don't even know if he wrestled. I think he defected after Pan Am's maybe.
Let me go check. Because I remember everyone was like, why the hell did Mindarishvili win? He was...
No, 07 was Katoyev. Katoyev slaughtered everybody that year.
Katoyev, but they had the Georgian win it the next year, and everyone was like, Ravas? No, he's Terry, he's scrambly, he's Georgian.
He won it in like 06, I think. I think Mindarishvili beats... Mindarishvili won it in 05 or 06. He beat, I think, Sajidov in the finals in 06.
Let me go check Mindarishvili right now. Back then, they still had Abdusalamov, who's coaching Poland right now.
Yeah, he was tough. He was second in 07 and second.
And then the Olympic runner-up. Abdusalamov's a great scrambler. Okay, I'm looking at I'm looking at Ravas right now. So you're right. He won in 2005, runner-up in 06, and then...
So he lost to Sajidov in 06.
Yeah, Shishidov's great. I saw he was coaching Pico for a little bit privately, and then Pico just decided Bellator was a better idea. When he was like, he should have beaten Frank in that series. He had close one with Yakupishvili, beat Gandrick. I think he would have been better off doing freestyle.
So 07, I go to Pan Am Games, right? So
Yeah.
Joe Williams beats me. He's hurt, so they send me to Pan Am Games. I beat a Cuban in the semis who took over after Romero defected. So Romero defected sometime, I think, like after the 07.
He went to Germany.
Yeah,
He did some club in Germany, and
Yep.
then he's like, "Oh, I don't want to leave."
Right. So yeah. So he went to Germany, defected, and so I tech falled the Cuban in the semis at the Pan Am Games. I was me and Cejudo might have been the only one to beat Cuba that year. And so I go and I lost to the Canadian who was Iranian in the
Canadian
finals.
Iranian.
Yeah, I lost to that dude in the finals, and I was so bummed. But so after I tech falled that guy at the Pan Ams, they were like, nope, they pulled him. And
They pulled
him the next year. They put this young kid in, Solace.
Oh
and that
my
was like
god!
the first year, right? So I was like, man, if I would have just made it competitive, I think I could have kept that guy.
Yeah, Salas would have never been a thing. You know, Sajalayev would have never gotten his start. You changed history. Picture that. They would. It would have
butterfly effect, right?
Yeah. Just one small thing. But speaking of that, do you remember Garcon, Jean-André Garcon?
Mm-hmm.
Around that same time, he's like been back for about a year or so. Came back at the World Cup and was like, "You're kidding me? This guy still around?" Then at the end of the year, he beats out Kurbanaliyev at the Alrosa Cup, and I'm like, "Wow, he still got it." Granted, Kurbanaliyev is like maybe 5'6", wrestling up at like 165. He's still like top 10 in all of Russia. But
sure. I love his body. He's got the dab.
It's great. It's like all lats and back and legs, and then it's like you don't need this. There's nothing to see here. All I got to do is have a great outside step series and great high crotch and arm drag. He's one of my favorites.
So I first met him, and he was like a kid. I was in Chechnya.
Yeah.
I was training over there for a month in October before I lived there. And so the U.S. team met me in Grozny. So I ended at the Kadyrov Cup. And so I'm sitting in the stands watching. And I remember Tommy Rowlands wrestled a young Akgul at 96 kilos. That was awesome. And so I'm sitting next to Kurbanaliyev, and he's asking me, he's like, "Can I come to America?" And I'm like, "I don't think so." I was like, "We don't just give passports out."
That's right.
And he's like 16, 17 years old or something like that. And he's like, but I come, and I beat Zadok. He's like,
"Oh, you really should have."
He was so young, but that's when he was like at 60 kilos. And I was like, "Yeah, I don't think you can."
Yeah, that is not happening anymore. I remember he cut so hard for that. Him and the Mohammadi, the Iranian, was supposed to win in 2015. And a video came out of him, and it was like the guy was like cutting 15 kilos to make weight.
That's insane. Yeah, most foreigners don't cut weight, but sometimes you get stuck.
Sometimes when they do, they're freaky about it. Like the Russian kid who's the really tall, gangly one who beat Gilman like last year at the Urigan, Magomedov, Abskadze. He's a great 61. When he was cutting it to 57, he was cutting 12 kilos.
That's insanity.
And he's not got a lot to lose, but he lost out to that Tony Ferguson looking guy, Ramazan Vasiliev, which Tony is. I don't know how much you keep up with him, but he is like, oh my God. When they say like don't try something at home, I like seeing him in the gym. I'm like, don't try that at the gym. You know, he kicks like steel girders. He'll be like, this is acupuncture. He'll stab himself in the arm with like a Bowie knife. I'm just like, you are a risk to yourself and others. But just
some of them are, man. They're just like Americans. They're nuts.
Yeah, nuts. Picture this way: make yourself a risk to others, but just when you need to get a paycheck.
I guess
that's all you need, really. So,
but what if you don't have a paycheck? Then you're just a risk.
Then he's just a risk.
Those guys, they're not winning. They're not getting paid.
We got to do the bubble wrap. The bubble wrap companies will make great money now for the Ferguson deal. But one of the things I want to talk about is you're big into developing physical literacy in athletes from a young age. And we're looking at how many do you have? You have base wrestling, you had double leg ninja with Jake Herbert, and you had bar with Elite.
Yeah, so those were the three businesses I started when I was coaching.
Yeah, and then you were in with Cliff Keen Wrestling Club, who's got both the Amines. They've got Dave Habit for Sylvania, San Marino, which is a little small. I'm not gonna say enclave. I don't know the proper geography, but it's a small little
It's slightly bigger than a city-state.
Slightly bigger than a city-state within Italy, and it just so happens to have one of the best guys in the world, and Miles Mean, wrestling there. And then you've got Stefan Micic, who's been in the top 10 of the rankings for a while and is an Olympian, a couple Olympians out of there. So can you describe some of your experience with coaching and where your methods come from and how that gets influenced by your time spent in training in Russia?
Yeah, so I went there after the Olympics. I went there for a month, like 3 months after the Olympics ended at Urigan. Didn't get to wrestle. I got hip pointer right before, just nailed some guy's hip.
I used to have this thumb for like 3 months was dislocated. It just like pop in and out every day. I was like, Coach, I'm supposed to do. I'm like, well, we'll just wrap it. Like, I could get a new one. We don't really. People think they're important, and they definitely are. But for 3 months,
right? Some of those joints are tough, right?
They're great.
So I got hip pointer, and I remember walking. I ended up walking with the coach and a translator. So it's where it's freezing. You got to walk over this bridge in Krasnoyarsk, and he's like, you're not wrestling. It's okay. He goes, you trained with us for a month. He asked the translator, what do you want to do? I said, well, when I'm done wrestling, I want to coach. And he goes, okay, here's the deal. So he told me this situation. He said, nobody's come here to train outside of Russia. He said, I want to invite you because I know that you respect the sport, you respect us, and that you want to coach and do good for USA Wrestling. And I was like, yes, of course. That's what I would love to do. And he goes, so here's the deal. He goes, I can train you, but I can't train you for 1 month or 2 months, and you can't understand what we do. And I was like, okay, well, what should I do? He said, come and I'll train you for a whole year, and I can make you a champion, but most importantly, I'll make you the best coach. And he was like, here's the reason. So he told me the reason. He goes, Leopold, when he was the coach of Germany.
Oh, Leopold's he's doing the German league now.
But was he the head? But at one point, like around 07, he was a head coach of Germany. So
he also had, I think he had a heart attack around that time too.
Yes.
Yeah, it took him out of commission for a bit. And now he's running the
heart attack or stroke, 1 or 2.
It was a heart attack. His movement. His movement's fine. He looks fine. He's doing I can't remember which club one, but like Springen or something, one of those teams, the ones that really just blow everyone out when it comes to club league. He's running that. So yeah, Leopold looks great. I don't care what people think about his results or if he's
I don't know.
He's great.
But
yeah.
So anyway, so he goes. The coach says, I gave Leopold the training curriculum 3 months, and he looks at it and he called him back and he said, with the translator, obviously, it's like, give me your real program. This isn't what you do. And he's like, no, this is what we do. He goes, no, this is not what you do. And he tore it up and he never used it. And so the coach goes, people won't believe you until you actually do it.
Right.
And so he goes, so you have to come here and believe me, and you have to do it yourself to understand them. This is actually all that we do. It's so simple. It's not difficult. It's like one of the easiest systematic approaches that you could ever imagine. And you have all these American people, there's zero system. So I did stats the other day. You'll love this.
Yeah.
You might have saw him on Twitter.
Oh, I did that same project a little while ago where we ran it through from 2017.
No, so I did just Russia, US, Iran, Turkey, and Cuba.
Oh, yeah.
So I did out of 49 world championships, Russia has won 39.
Mm-hmm.
USA has won 3, Iran 4, Cuba 3, and Cuba 1. Cuba and Turkey tied in 94.
Yeah.
And so 10 titles out of the next 3 teams, and Russia has 39. And so they have 179 gold medals. USA has 45, Iran 47, and Turkey 29. So total, those 3 countries have 121 compared to Russia 179. And then
that's ridiculous, the disparity. Did you look at former USSR countries? Because I did that for Ukraine, Azerbaijan, Armenia. And you remember Armenia had a good lighter weight guy at the turn of the century, or turn of the decade, whatever. Which one? Like late 90s. We would say late 90s. And at his 60s, something like that.
Yeah, I saw that.
But he's really good.
so it's like, okay, well, this is a systematic approach. No other
Yeah.
country really has a systematic approach. Iran a little bit, but not really.
It's a conditioning oriented thing more for them, where they just
they're very American,
pressure.
just like America.
Where their positioning and understanding what their underhook needs to be doing is a lot better than just Americans, where they don't understand the different modalities of an underhook, where it's like, I have to be all the way up here or I have to be here, where they understand when it needs to be, where it needs to be.
Exactly.
You know?
So I got the systematic approach. I went back for a month. That October trip, I went to Kadyrov Cup or whatever you call it, and then a year. And so I took it down and I broke it. And so when I came back, I didn't know what to do, and I just moved back to Ann Arbor, and I didn't have a job. But they were like, "Hey, you want to coach the club? We don't have any money for you." And I was like, "Sure." So I started coaching the club, and 6 months later, Callum Russell wins the U.S. Open, and Cornell offered me a job, and all I did was I just copied everything I did over there, right? Like, here's the training cycles, here's the plan, and it wasn't perfect. I didn't have it like perfect. It was a little sloppy in my understanding, but yeah. So Callum wins the U.S. Open unseeded, first person to do that, maybe ever, and so Michigan offered me a little money, so I stayed, and next thing you know, like, I was able to run the Cliff Keen Wrestling Club using this training system. And I tell people all the time, like, I'm not throwing shade or anything, but like, when I first started coaching, right before the Olympics, is when I was really making no money. And so I was training the guys prior to the Olympic trials in 12, because I retired in 11. And I remember having a meeting, and Sean Bromek goes, "Nobody likes your training. It's boring. You guys do the same thing every day." I said, "That's fine." I said, "I did this for 12 months in Russia." I said, "We did this training every day." I said, "The thing is, you want results. You don't want people to feel good about their training." And so I was like, "I'm going to keep doing it. I don't care. Like, thanks for the advice. I appreciate it." And so the next thing you know, like, then, fast forward 6, 7, 8 months later, and this was before Sean took over, when McFarland was there. Then next thing you know, like 6, 7 months later, they don't just hate my training. They're asking me if I could take them out of the college training and not have them go through the college practices because they like mine. Fast forward like a year later, the college guys are like, "Could you run our practices?" I'm like,
right.
I don't work for the university. I'll never work for the university. I don't like university.
There's too much bureaucracy in it.
Oh yeah, university athletic departments are disgusting.
Yeah.
I'm currently in a battle with one right now for sexual allegations.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And so, but that's why, that part of that reason is why I never wanted to coach athletic departments, because they're just gross. Like, they don't care about people. They only care about themselves. And money and their own advancements in their careers. And so anyway, so it's like, now all these people want to do my training because they knew what the expectations were and they saw the progress.
Right.
So then I started breaking it down with Barwis. He knew a lot of the science of like why, like, the
periodization and everything.
So he was helping me with that, and then he also taught, he also helped me understand the difference between drilling and sparring, because when he helps people walk again, he taps into the basal ganglia, which is at the base of the spine.
So coordination of movement and fluidity of movement.
Right. So that's where you automate movement. So he was like, here's why when they do the drilling. So in the base system, the Russian system, essentially you drill, so you warm up and then you drill for 6 minutes. Well, at the highest level, you don't have to drill a lot, because if you're drilling at a 99% proficiency and efficiency, there's no difference between drilling for 6 minutes and 45 minutes. You're not getting any better.
Yeah, there's already there's a threshold essentially for where there's going to be any new learning. You have to get past that threshold. And from a beginner's point of view, where if we introduce XYZ, so let's say X amount of load, and there's going to be, a gain. So physical learning is going to occur. Right. There's going to be results, right? But at a certain point, for let's say a sprinter, right? If they aren't having XYZ amount of distance covered or weight put on, and they're already in peak physical condition, you're not doing anything. They're going to get consistent results, and that's the important part. But then some people down the line will be like, I'm too consistent. I can't get to here. I'm stuck here.
Right.
Yeah, and all they ever really see is like a this or here.
But right. So I understood. So he started telling me, okay, well, here's how you train the kids, right? Like, you can't introduce multiple movements, because building the myelin is not going to take place. So you got to do just your setups, right? So you got to teach kids, okay, circle pull. Pull. You got to do that step. And then it's like, then you're like, okay, just your attacks. So then you understand those motions. Then it's like, okay, we'll put them two together. And then you do circle, pull, attack. And so now your brain starts putting the different movements together. And then eventually, as you're learning the finishes, then over time you could build all those together. But even when we drill at the highest level, we just drill set up to attack, and then we'll do on certain days, and then you do, just start in with the leg and finish, and then you go, okay, do all three of them, and so that way you're chunking the movements, and so that's how I understood how they drill. But then I really gained an understanding of what sparring is, because you look at Americans and they think sparring is just wrestling and putting yourself in funky positions, right? Well, that's not sparring, right? That's trash wrestling, right?
Yeah.
So sparring was the opposite, right? So I learned that through Barwis, that technique, and this I also learned through listening to Josh Whiteskin, his book on chess. And so technique is what you can control and what directions you can go in. So you have direction to attack, what part of the body you can control after the attack, and then direction to finish. And so what sparring is a focus on the control of the body, which is fine motor skills.
Right.
So drilling could be automated, where fine motor skills is the art form of the sport, and you get to expand your knowledge within that. So like when you talked about the Iranian underhook, that's because they spend time in there. Like Americans, we always tell the guy who gets underhooked, get out right away, right? So he gets an underhook, you're like, clear the underhook. And then you're out of the underhook right away, and you never get an understanding of the position on either side.
And you give up a lot of, in a match, you'll see guys where that's the only path that they can get with it, instead of being able to get that inside control there, maybe even play with where their hips are going to be and redirecting that pressure. We'll see like Russians, Belarusians, they'll get it and they'll time it, flare that elbow up a bit, just pass it by. And we're like, how do they do them? Like, it's not just the move itself, it's what's going into it.
Right, Sajidov had an unbelievable overhook pass.
Oh, it's great. You know who's got the best one now? Who does it pretty well? Which one?
Masa's got a good one for American.
He does it. He's really solid with it. The Belarusian 74, Nurikov. The one that gave Jordan Burroughs like that hard attack of a match where people like, what's happening? This guy's a bum. I can't even say his name. Oh, God. I'm like, you're stupid. He's good. He doesn't. He's like a minute man, but God, he's good.
No, he's strong too. Super strong.
Huge. He's huge at whatever weight he goes, and that's gross. I wish I was on what he was on and had any of his talent, but I don't.
But anyway, so that's how I figured out the technical part of it. And so, I mean, I just experimented. And when you have a systematic approach and you experiment, you could alter tiny little things, like just minuscule things, how you approach, how you word it, timing of things. And so I just made tiny little experiments. And it's like, then, as I was at the end of my coaching career, I knew exactly the conditioning my guys were going to be in. I knew exactly how they were going to feel. I knew exactly how good they were in certain positions leading up to events. Obviously, you can't guarantee wins.
No, you can't.
But you could, because I was working with, like, when I was at the Cliff King Club, it was like maybe 4 to 5 guys a year with a couple college guys, right? So it's like, putting all your eggs in a basket of 4 to 5 guys and trying to guarantee victory, that's ridiculous. But I was able to have guys constantly improve, like a Jimmy Kennedy.
Jimmy's great.
So it's like you could see improvement, and I never judged myself on the wins and losses.
Right.
I was able to judge it like, over the whole career. Jimmy had an unbelievable international career with like some great victories. The dude won a car in Russia. It's like, what American
for the Intercontinental Cup? Yeah.
Who wins a car, right? Like, to me,
No Americans, they can't.
So that was a great experience as a coach. Just to be like, I was able to run like a large scale science project. It was so fun,
right.
And it's replicable, right? Like I was able to repeat it year after year.
Right. One of the things when I was looking at the programming, the first thing that I thought of is you look at like Olympic weightlifting programs and these Chinese, Russian, Bulgarian programming, where it's like they have kids set for the quad, they have them set for what's your competitions for the months. We have you on what weight you need to be. It gets rid of a lot of that guesswork and extra energy that honestly wastes athletes and coaches' time. There's not structure in it. You know,
Right.
with lifting like that, it's not a workout. It's a I need you to be good 5 to 6 weeks down the line. And you may feel really good this one, but I'm going to tell you, when you blow out, like if you go 1 out of 3 because you went too hard now, that's just, it's not worth it. And we'll have coaching guys in America be like, but that's how all the practices need to be. I'm like, if you look at that sport and they told you, I need to feel good every practice, I need to blow out my lungs, I'm like, I'm going to get blown out on the stage, you know?
Right.
And that's a way more intense one because, yeah, the CNS load for wrestling is really high. But for that one, if you're going, so guys will have, let's say, an 85% practice every day. We've seen that. And you cannot do that in other sports. They'll just crush it.
So I also asked Bar with this. This was great. This would be a great thing for someone to study. When I was over there, I never saw anybody with herpes, right? And I got this crazy eye rash right now, but not herpes.
No, you just got dry skin.
So I don't know what it is. I think I was putting too much oil on my face, and so every time I put oil on it, it was like getting like almost like probably like a yeast infection, maybe. I don't know, but
exactly.
I stopped putting face lotion on it, and so now it's really drying up.
Okay.
But anyway, but I asked Boris, so when I was there, I said I never saw anyone break out with herpes. Like nobody ever came to practice, had funk on their face. But you go to college wrestling rooms, like 80% of the people have it, and they're like, well, we should all just be on drugs. Right. We should just all be on doses of drugs to prevent this from coming. And I was like, this seems very odd to me. And I said, do you think it's because Americans don't? So no college coach. I couldn't name a college coach that could tell you the metabolic pathways, right? Like they're like, what do you mean metabolic pathways? It's like, well, wait, how are you training elite level athletes if you don't know the metabolic pathways? Like, no college coach is going to tell you here's the metabolic pathways. If they do, they're not going to tell you, understand how to train it. Yeah. And so I was like, I said, Mike, like, is this because we shot, the shot you just crushed the central nervous system.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you're at high intensity year round, like because coaches don't know how to cycle. And I said, so our central nervous system.
You give that much of a load all the time. There's going to be coinciding like dysregulation and overall function of the body. So like the immune system's going to go down. You can see guys with weird liver function. You can see if they're trying to cut weight super hard, the kidney function is going to go down.
Sure,
and you can see guys like bottom out that way. So we think, it's just they're kind of sore. I'm like, no, man, it's like 5 different things at once. We got to be real careful about it.
Right. Well, and then like I remember being in college, like working our asses off, and then we'd have a bad weekend, and the coach would be like, "You're not in shape." It's like,
those are awful.
Yeah. We work our nuts off, and you're telling me we're not in shape. And they're like, the only case is we got to work harder. And then you get more shot, and you're like, this is insanity. Like, I'm giving everything I have, and this is never ending. How am I not in shape? Right?
This
like,
doesn't make sense.
I'm showing up, and I'm doing the work. But anyway, so that was that's an interesting side note of periodization and coaches not understanding how to cycle athletes and the amount of outbreaks the team has, and another, and as you said, like injuries too. You don't. So I judge people on their training when I go to NCAA's. I love it. You see all the teams. How many kids on one team have their knee taped from ankle to thigh? And I'm like, those teams overtrained. I would never go to that university
because State's got a real injury problem.
Right, so it's either their training is just they're putting themselves in a really bad position, or they're just overtrained.
They're burning themselves up. I hear what goes on where it's like this kill or be killed mentality there. I'm like, look, man, they can get results, but if you're losing 60% of your yield, you're still losing 60%. Your 40% can be absolutely great, but just from looking at the numbers, that is not it's not completely broken, but you should still fix it.
Right. So you said you hit on 2 things, right? So you said coaches waste a lot of energy and athletes waste a lot of energy thinking of what you had to do today when you could have a whole plan. Well, that's why I created BASE, was for for high school coaches to be like, look, like, you're a volunteer. You have a family, you have a job.
Yeah.
You're helping these kids out. Stop wasting your time thinking about the best way to train somebody. I have that. I'll give that to you.
Yeah, don't worry.
Now all you have to do is run this program, show up, and just be there for the kids and help them at the actual practice. You don't have to waste your time thinking about what to do. So that's one reason. And then the last part was you said, yeah, that 40%, they may be okay, but
they're great.
You're losing 60% of your athletes. That was me because Metcalf was the man when I started coaching. And, I was like, you can't have high school coaches. You can't have any athlete, you can't have any coaching like program coaching your whole team geared on that 1%, that Brent Metcalf thing. Oh, well, you could do it. Well, why can't you all do it? It's like, well, that's not feasible. So I created the system, and the selling point of the system is that it is geared for the average, right? Because you're always going to have people who just are there to be there, but it's geared for the average. But there's room in the system for the above average to grow themselves, which is psychologically what you want. You don't want to take 100% from your athlete and then them having to go into competition and be like, well, the only thing I
don't have anything left.
When my coach, right. Well, the coaches push you. Well, I'll push you to, like 85, 90%. And I'll be like, okay, well, the rest is up to you. Here's what you have to do to get to the top. Well, now that's psychologically, that last 10% is why they're winning, not me.
Right. So we call it, it's an over-justification effect. We can see if it's overcoaching, if you're just paying guys to show up and they don't really have any reason that they want to be there and why they'd continue to do something. So I think the first time Americans really started to pick up on the system approach was they saw 2014 Worlds, and they saw 3 Russians. They won world titles with fireman's carries. Romanov, Sajalayev, and Sabal, who still got a great one. His whole series on that knee pull single.
That's funny you brought that up. I'll tell you a story about that too, from my end.
Yeah. 2 of them were North Ossetians.
So this is funny. So I started coaching in 2012, and 2012 Zeke's a huge statistics person. So Zeke's like, everybody's scoring off. All these Russians are scoring off of the seatbelt. We got to train seatbelt. We got to train seatbelt. Yeah. So all like 2013, or maybe that was 2013, and then so we're going into the 2014 Worlds, and all we trained all summer was seatbelt. Yeah. Well, then we go into the 2014 Worlds, and then, like you said, all the Russians started scoring all these points off of fireman's carries. Mm-hmm. And Zeke comes back. He goes, we trained for all these seatbelt positions and blah, blah, blah. And top one. Thank you. So, wait.
Yeah.
So anyways, all these Russians were scoring off of 2-on-1s. 2-on-1.
Firemen's, 2-on-1 to a fireman's,
And so I was like, I got it. And Zeke was like, well, what do you mean? I said, you're taking statistics from the year before. The Russians are creating the statistics. He goes, well, what do you mean? I said, well, these are the situations that they do every day. I said, every day in Russia, they do single, high crotch, bail attack, and upper body. Mm-hmm. I said, from those, they work their top bottom. I said, but if you want to alter that, right? So when you do, single, you have high, medium, low, extended. High crotch, you have high, medium, extended, high crotch. Upper body, overhook on one side. Then you have over under, and then you have 2-on-1s. I said, if you want to alter the statistics of what your athletes are going to do, well, you're not doing over unders or underhook. You are doing all 2-on-1s every practice. So what do you think they do when they get in a match? Instinctively, they grab that 2-on-1 and boom, they're so good hitting the firemen's off it. I said, they're predetermining the statistic based on how often they're doing a situation in one of those, a level within those situations in the practice. And he was like, you're right. And so it's like they're predetermining what the statistics are going to be, and we're looking at these a year later trying to figure out how to train for the next year instead of predetermining our own statistics, because you can't predetermine statistics if you have no systematic approach to do so.
Right. You can't ever actually you can't make history if you're still trying to, learn about what already happened.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, one of the weirder things, I was watching Dagestan puts out a lot more of their training videos now.
Hi. I know.
Hey.
I can't do the workout today anyway.
You get dehydrated.
Hold on 1 second. You can't do what?
I wouldn't be able to do the workout anyway because of that.
At 4:30?
Yeah.
You're still coming to the wrestling shoot. And you're going to do the first 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Maybe.
No, I know.
I
Sorry,
can't do the question and answer.
Yeah, you're fine.
I have to go to a podcast.
Yeah.
No, she doesn't have to. I mean, I don't have to.
No,
but-
I know. That's fine. Yeah.
No.
No. I'll have Jack do it. If you don't want to do it, I'll have Jack do it. No, Jack will do it. Jack will do it. Don't. I'm doing a show.
But I don't want to do the base.
Oh, you have to. I'll take it until it's happened.
No.
Jeez.
Why can't we just use one of the extra ones? We have a bunch of extra ones.
It's fine.
Yeah, you're doing that.
I worked with a lot of kids for psychology too, so.
They just want to go to their friend's house, but
Oh, well, yeah. Well, that's
we live
yeah.
on a commune and there's multiple houses, and their cousins live right down on the other house.
That's a pretty ideal thing. I got to move back up to Pennsylvania pretty soon too. So,
Hold on 1 second.
all right.
Yeah. Crazy. The kid that's supposed to wrestle left.
Yeah. Do you know what's crazy that I was seeing? Dagestan's been putting out a lot of content on their training, you know, building up personalities for guys. You see Gazi Magomedov, Gadzi, Brandon Leaf, Sajalayev, they're all hanging out. They don't lift a bunch of heavy weights, from what I see.
None. No, they
They
don't.
just do high intensity interval, and we're having I like AJ Ferrari. I think he's a great recruit, but he's like,
Oh, he's gonna get injured.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Sure. So like John Morrison, you know, because I trained him, and so John Morrison, I gotta make sure this girl's here. Anyway,
Yeah.
So John Morrison, I got to wrap this up by 2, but
Yeah, you're fine.
So John Morrison said that, well, I'm friends with him, and I was like, dude, does this Ferrari guy know that, like, name one wrestler that is super built like that has had a long career? That just power lifts. Like, not
Just power lift, like,
you know, Snyder started off with a bang, but, like, his results have been going.
and then he went to Penn
silver,
State, and then they
bronze.
probably just
They might go up, right? But, like, you know, as of now, right? Let's look at.
he's got Sajalayev and Mohammadi.
Gold medal, silver medal, bronze medal, right? Like, he's
Yeah.
going down, and you look at his body and his mobility. It's not about he's not losing because he's not strong enough. He's losing because he's not mobile enough, right?
That Sharifov match was like the pinnacle of that. Like where Sharifov got the re-attack and Snyder couldn't open him up. And Sharifov is as defensively sound as they come, but offensively he's pretty, I wouldn't say limited, but he's not this dynamo. You know, he's great re-attack wise, but it's sort of like, I don't know. He gives Jaden Cox fits too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I like Sharifov a lot.
No, Sharifov is great. I mean, he's a great wrestler. Has a long career, a lot of medals, different weights. You know, 84.
Remember when he was at 97 when he got
92,
he wasn't like a bumped up 97 years, just kind of fat, and then he beat Yazdani.
Right.
That's what you want in your career. You want to be so good that you can be in bad shape and still be good. You know.
Yeah, I tried that.
You want the Johnny Hendricks 70% style, and then just not the end point of what happened with his career. Because, you know, love Johnny. Just he shouldn't be fighting Paulo Costa. You know, the big Brazilian one, the one that looks like he's built out of like freaking steel. That guy scares me. You know, he's that pretty, and he could literally kill me. You know, scary stuff, Andy.
No, so. Yeah, no, thanks for having me, man. I got
no problem.
Live at 3, and I just saw so many kids get in a car. I'm gonna have to go or get their dad to go and take them out of the house, and they're not gonna like it. But
it's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah, it's a ton. Like when you're going live, so I do a live kids class every day at 3.
Yeah.
So it's our base movement class.
Yeah.
And you know, so that goes out on a Spartan channel. So Spartan.
Yeah,
race.
you doing any when we encourage like other interaction with other sports, you getting them in any gymnastics, any sort of stuff like that? I think that's really great for kids to get.
Eventually.
Yeah.
No, these guys I'm training here, they do gymnastics. They do wrestling training, then gymnastics training
Okay.
at night. But right now in the house, we're just doing so. Instead of gymnastics, we're doing a lot of balance related skill work.
Yeah, balance is great.
So I do a 3:00 class for Spartan, and then on 3:30 on Spartan Combat, I do base wrestling teaching. Like only 30 people watch it. We don't promote it, but I do it because I have to teach the kids, and I say, hey, you guys got to sit in front of this, and you guys got to learn because you can't be embarrassing me in front of everybody.
Right.
And then we do an hour wrestling practice, and then they do gymnastics and their strength and conditioning, which is rope climbs and like the little shoulder rotations with like the little hammer or whatever that you want to call it. It's like a little bat that.
I've got those. Yeah, the swinging ones. Yeah, they work great for your grip too. Yeah, but everybody started doing that headstand, and since Ilias Bekbulatov started here, I'm like, well, one, he's been doing that since he's been like 5. 2, he's kind of geared. I like him though. He's one of my favorites.
Yeah, he's a stud.
Yeah, he's great. But thanks for coming on, and this should be up within a week on the fight site.
Sweet.
So, yeah.